Criticism over the World Bank's approval of the 7.6 billion rand loan to South Africa continues, with Union Federation SAFTU being the latest to voice its disapproval. The loan is meant to finance the country's COVID-19 vaccination program retroactively. Now, for more reaction, I'm joined by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. Mr. Vavi, good afternoon. Thanks for speaking to us. Why do you oppose this loan?
Because we have no doubt in my mind that this loan that is being given to our country, seemingly looking very good, the cheapest, is actually part and parcel of a government commitment to a neoliberal program of economic development, should we say economic underdevelopment, that have been pursued by successive administrations under the ANC government since 1994. Already, as you know, this $7.6 billion we have, or rands that we have received, is not isolated. We received another figure of 11 billion in January, and as you know, our foreign debt is already standing at $165 billion in March, and of that, 81 billion is foreign denominated. Foreign denominated means that we're paying back that money in dollars. It won't be very long if you look at our fiscal situation in the country before we start to default on that 81 billion US dollars. And as soon as we default, no one in our country knows what will be the penalties and what are the conditions that have been signed into the World Bank, and whether we have, and as we suspect we have done, actually signed to the World Bank Structural Adjustment Program, which are called something else in the country. You know that South Africa is a signatory to something that is called the World Bank Group Country Partnership Framework of 2022. That Structural Adjustment Program, if you know the reason why government facing such a massive under or development backlogs, you have to look at why then it is targeting to have a surplus in 2024, why it is cutting expenditure on every social development priority, such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, policing. Everything is under the X of the fiscal consolidation program of the South Africa's Reserve Bank, South Africa's Treasury, and which is actually a South African commitment to these structural adjustment programs of the World Bank. They are anti-development, they are anti-poor, and they come with strings attached to these billions, which we are being told are cheap, and we are not being told everything associated with our signature to them, and that's why we're opposed to them.
Mr. Vavi, would it make any difference if the money was borrowed locally or borrowed from the continent?
As I was saying, that once you have such a massive 81.3 billion rands in foreign denominated, then you are obliged to pay back that money in dollars, in US dollars. It's not in your currency. We don't print dollars in our country. We print rands only. And when we are forced to pay in dollars, it simply means the more the exchange rate deteriorates between the rand and the US dollar or the euro or any other foreign money, the greater the responsibility or harder the burden for us to pay back that loan. And that's exactly what we are being exposed to. Many countries in the African continent have signed to the structural adjustment program under very good reasons, in inverted commas. And they were told that this was an escape from underdevelopment. This was the only way to address the backlogs inherited from the colonial system, and in our case, the backlogs inherited from the apartheid system as well. And unfortunately, all of those countries have simply signed away their right to determine their own local policies to respond to their local conditions of development. And we believe that South Africa has already lost its foreign or its sovereignty. Rather, I should have said foreign when I'm referring to sovereignty. Our right to determine policies that can respond to the fact that we have a 15% housing backlog in our country. We have a 46% unemployment rate, and 76% of our youth now is unemployed. We can't respond to that because we have signed our right to decide on our country's policies and priorities through these loans that are being given to us or offered to us by the World Bank. And so that's the main reason why we're doing so. The reason why we were so opposed to this loan is because already this government is neglecting all of the structural fault lines of unemployment, poverty, inequality, and corruption of the private sector.
Well, Mr.
Precisely because
Mr. Vavi,
it must.
While we're at that point, allow me to come in there, because I think this will speak to some of the things that you're saying. What we do know is that the loan allegedly is for vaccination purposes, COVID vaccination purposes, but 31.4% of the population has been vaccinated following that 11 billion rand loan, which was authorized in January. So we're almost at the halfway stage, and another 7 billion going towards vaccination. There seems to be little in the way of success when it comes to vaccinating the population. Are you convinced that this 7 billion will go towards COVID vaccination?
No, I don't believe that for a cent. It may be that may be true, by the way, but that's just a camouflage in our view. The real reason why we're getting these loans is that South Africa have now signed a commitment that South Africa will have a budget surplus by 2024, according to the minister latest budget speech. How could we, as a country with such massive backlogs in terms of development, be celebrating a surplus? How could we be worried about some debt that we have when in the history of this economy, at the point when we had the highest debt of above 100% to our GDP, we were developing, we were building these state-owned enterprises that this government is currently destroying left, right, and center. There is no relationship between this so-called the loan to vaccinate the country and to ensure that our health systems are in speed with the realities of COVID and other diseases that we are getting at this particular age of our development. The record of the Treasury is to the opposite. If you look at the reality, it is actually the Treasury that have for many years been sabotaging the introduction of the National Health Insurance. It is actually the Treasury that is currently sabotaging the introduction of a comprehensive social security system. It is the Treasury that is stopping the government from introducing the basic income grant of 1,500 for the unemployed.
How and
why? It is the government that is threatening. It is the Treasury that is threatening even the further extension of the mere insulting 350 rands that is being paid to about 10, 11 million people that are unemployed. It is because the Treasury is totally committed to neoliberalism, is totally committed to the austerity program, and it is totally committed to the signature that it has attached to the World Bank that commits us into all of these conditionalities that are anti-poor, that are pro-rich.
Now, the finance minister has cut spending on health. How do you explain the spend, the cut in spend, and then this loan of 7 billion rand?
If you were to look at our health and education budget in rands and compare them with what our neighbors are spending on their education and health care, you will come to only one conclusion, that we do not lack money per se in our country. What we lack is an efficient, professional administration under a political leadership that is committed into ensuring that each and every rand and cent spent, it is rand worth that is benefiting the ordinary people in our country. That's the first point. Look at our education results. We can't compete with our neighbors in Swaziland, Botswana, Zimbabwe, you name them all. Look at our health system. Even though the Zimbabwean health system have now been collapsed altogether under the corrupt administration of ZANU-PF. But before that, they used to produce far better results than we are in our country. That's our first problem. Our second problem is that, of course, we need to not to use the fact that we have such an inefficient, corrupt administration at the current level in order to neglect the need to ensure that we fill the vacancies in which are calculated to be above 40,000 in the healthcare, 200,000 across the administration. We need to address the backlogs of infrastructure in our public hospitals, and we need to make sure that our schools have proper laboratories, libraries, proper security administration, and that we get rid of the latrine systems as a way of toilets, and that we had been promised that they will be getting rid of many ages ago. So we do need not a fiscal consolidation that is going to lead to more budget cuts. What we need is a more investment by the government, an investment that have now dropped to new lows, not only from the government but also from the private sector. It is those new lows in the investment in the economy that is creating the current crisis where our GDP is either on decline or completely stagnant and not growing at the levels that we need in order to begin to absorb the unemployed and more importantly, to re-industrialize our economy so that we can offer the unemployed graduates and the unemployed people in general better jobs, decent jobs that are going to offer them a living wage.
Now, Mr. Vavi, that loan has been given, and hardly likely that your opinion or mine is going to change anything. But how do we ensure accountability for that 7 billion rand?
We've got to ensure that the systems are strengthened. We like the fact that the Auditor General has for years been arguing that as long as he is embarking on these rituals of year in, year out, issuing these damning audit findings in the local government, provincial and national government, and where it has no teeth, like a Chapter 9 institutions, to send people to prison, to put the local government in administration when they year in and year out produce unauditable books. And as long as they don't have the teeth and to bite, the politician, from the president up to the lowest ranking councillor at the local government, we will go nowhere. And that's where the country must focus its energy. We've got to strengthen the civil society. We've got to strengthen the trade union movement. We've got to ensure that our parliament can hold the executive accountable and stop praising them even when they are clearly not producing the results that they commit to in each and every 5 years when they go and seek a new mandate from the electorate.
SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, thank you for your time this afternoon as he was talking to us about SAFTU, and they're opposing the 7.6 billion rand loan to government from the World Bank.